Picture 40,000 people, an entire nation, gone. Not wiped out in a war. Not swept away by a plague. They just walked away one day. And here's the part that makes historians uncomfortable. This civilization didn't build a single pyramid the way anyone else on Earth did. No triangles. No sharp stone tips scraping the sky like in Egypt, or hidden deep in the Maya jungles. This civilization built circles. Perfect, massive, concentric stone circles, carved into the earth like a bullseye only a god could aim at. For over 1,000 years, they quietly ruled a hidden corner of Mexico that almost nobody has ever heard of. And then, right when they were at the peak of their wealth and power, they vanished completely. No war, no eruption, no written explanation left behind. Today, we're going deep into their world to figure out what actually happened to them. Stick around, because the real answer is buried underground, quite literally, and it's stranger than you'd expect. Let's rewind the clock. Long before the Aztecs built their empire, long before the Maya carved their famous temples into the jungle, something else was happening in western Mexico. Somewhere around 300 BCE, in the volcanic valleys of what is now the state of Jalisco, a civilization known today as the Teuchitlán tradition began building something the world had never really seen before. While ancient Rome was busy pouring concrete to raise the Colosseum, these people were reshaping entire hillsides into rings of carved stone. And this was not some small, forgotten village lost to time. This was a real, organized empire, with a population estimated in the tens of thousands, spread across an entire valley system. What made them so powerful was control over one incredibly valuable resource: obsidian. That glossy, black volcanic glass was essentially the steel of the ancient world. Sharp enough to slice through bone in a single motion, and everyone wanted access to it. Traders carried it hundreds of miles across mountains and rivers, trading it for goods, food, and influence. This society had wealth, it had power, it had reach. And somehow, modern history completely missed them for over 1,000 years. It wasn't until 1970 that an archaeologist named Phil Wigand was walking through a quiet agave field and noticed something odd. Strange, overgrown, cone-shaped mounds poking up through the weeds. He had no idea he was standing directly on top of a lost city that the rest of the world had completely forgotten existed. Now here's where the story takes a darker turn. Underneath those stone circles, archaeologists uncovered something nobody expected to find. Deep, narrow shaft tombs, some plunging as far as 60 feet straight down into solid volcanic rock. Entire families would climb all the way down into total darkness just to bury their most important people, surrounded by obsidian blades. Hand-carved ceramic figures, and rare jewelry brought from distant lands. These were not simple graves in the ground. They functioned more like underground vaults, private, hidden, and clearly built to remain sealed away from the world above. And here's the detail that should give you chills. These tombs sit directly beneath the exact same circular plazas where the entire population would gather. Which raises an obvious question. What exactly was happening above ground, directly on top of the dead, that mattered enough to build an entire civilization around it? Picture the scene for a moment. Thousands of people, standing shoulder to shoulder, arranged in perfect concentric rings around a single point. And in the middle of it all, a massive wooden pole, rising from the exact center of the pyramid like the hand of a clock. According to historical reconstructions, a high priest, dressed head to toe in the feathers of an eagle, would climb all the way to the very top of that pole. Then, tied by ropes, he would let himself spin through the open air above the crowd, arms outstretched, believed to be a way of communicating directly with the volcano itself. For hundreds of years, this same ritual repeated again and again, almost like clockwork. It was structure, it was mathematics, it was devotion carried out in perfect unison by thousands of people at once. And then, one day, without warning, it simply stopped forever. Around the year 900, everything about this civilization begins to fall apart. Trade routes that once stretched for hundreds of miles go completely quiet. The obsidian workshops, once buzzing with the sound of stone being carved into blades, sit abandoned and empty. And those deep shaft tombs we mentioned earlier, sealed shut, permanently, almost as if on purpose. Naturally, archaeologists went looking for the usual explanations. A foreign invasion, a brutal war, a catastrophic volcanic eruption from the nearby volcano. And they found absolutely nothing. No mass graves. No burned buildings. No layer of volcanic ash covering the ruins. It is as if 40,000 people simply stood up one morning and walked quietly into the surrounding mountains, never to be seen again. So what actually happened to them? The leading scientific explanation is almost painfully simple: the water ran out. This entire civilization depended completely on a vast network of lakes and rivers running through the valley. But geological evidence shows that around the year 900, western Mexico was hit by a brutal, prolonged mega drought. Crops failed season after season. Lake levels dropped dramatically, and little by little, families packed up whatever they could carry and left, scattering into the surrounding mountains in search of water, eventually blending into other rising cultures nearby. It is not a dramatic, sudden exit. It is slow, it is desperate, and honestly, it makes a lot of practical sense. But here is the theory that genuinely keeps researchers up at night. Those stone rings were never just decorative. They were engineered with incredible mathematical precision, carefully aligned with the horizon and the movement of specific stars overhead. Some researchers believe that central wooden pole was never just a ritual prop. It may have functioned like an axis, a tool built to track something happening in the night sky. Did these people witness a passing comet, a rare planetary alignment, some kind of celestial event we still don't fully understand today? Nobody knows for certain. But here is the detail that really unsettles people. Before they left, they did not simply abandon the city and move on. They deliberately sealed every shaft tomb. They buried their own sacred altars under thick layers of earth. This was not a hasty escape. They did not want this place to be found. They wanted it erased completely. When modern archaeologists finally mapped the ruins using advanced digital scanning technology, they discovered something remarkable. Every single ring, every raised platform, every stone pillar lines up with the movement of the cosmos with startling mathematical precision. This was never just a city where people happened to live. It was engineered like a giant instrument, carefully tuned to the sky above it. That single discovery has pushed some researchers toward a genuinely chilling idea. Maybe the abandonment was never a moment of panic at all. Maybe it was scheduled from the very beginning. Maybe these people always believed their time here was limited, that it would run out on a fixed and predictable cue, and when that moment finally arrived, they simply finished what they had started, and walked away entirely on their own terms. Think about that for a second. We build our cities today on grids, straight lines, right angles, squares stacked on squares as far as the eye can see. This civilization looked at all of that, and rejected it completely, choosing circles instead, on purpose, for over 1,000 years. Maybe that wasn't just an architectural choice. Maybe it was a worldview, a belief that everything, power, time, even life itself, moves in a loop rather than a straight line, and that every loop, no matter how great, is always destined to close. Today, those ancient circles are still sitting quietly in the valley, empty, and completely ignoring the square shapes that almost every other civilization on Earth built everything around. Whatever the true reason really was, whether it was drought, prophecy, or something we still don't fully understand, one thing feels certain: after everything we've uncovered together, every great circle eventually closes. So here's the real question for you. Do you think they fled a dying land out of pure survival, or do you think they finished exactly what they set out to do from the very beginning? Let me know your honest theory down in the comments, and if you love digging into mysteries like this one, make sure you're subscribed, because we are just getting started.